Good morning. Thank you very much. I'm Senator Frank Pratt, and I'm here to be the facilitator for the Corporation Commission. And with one little comment that I would make, in my 10 years in the legislature, that I have been either the chairman or the vice chairman of the Water, Energy, and Natural Resources Committee. So just with that. So could I have the candidates for the Corporation Commission? Ladies, come on down, please, if you would. Okay. Okay. Okay, all right. All right, I just have one reminder to all of the people in the audience. Please be courteous to all of our candidates today and welcome them here. And I would like to start with a 1-minute introduction of the candidates, and we'll start with Sandra.
Good afternoon, my mic is stuck.
Okay.
This is a task for me. Thank you. Good afternoon. Good morning. My name is Sandra Kennedy. 30-second introduction. I am a former commissioner, served on the commission from 2009 to 2013, and I want to stop corruption, stop the unjust and unjustified rate increases, and I want to be your consumer advocate. We have worked together in the past, and I'd like to work with you in the near future. I look forward to today's debate. Thank you so much.
Kiana.
Good morning. I'm Kiana Maria Sears, running for the Arizona Corporation Commission as a clean elections candidate. I am here to serve the ratepayers of Arizona. I resigned from the Corporation Commission after 6.5 years of service, and I served diligently in many civic organizations, including the NAACP, fighting against all those things that hurt people's rights, and I also work with the Anti-Defamation League. As an energy professional, I saw as an employee over and over the will of the people was overridden. I am going to be there to serve and work for you. That's why I took this on, and I'm for renewables and going forward with solar and mostly rebuilding our water infrastructure. Again, my name's Kiana Sears, and I look forward to engaging with you today, and most of all, I look forward and ask you to vote for me, Kiana Sears.
Next is Bill Mundell.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I've had the honor and the privilege to serve in all 4 branches of Arizona's government, and I did say 4 branches. The commission is considered a 4th branch of government. I served on the commission for 9 years, from 1999 to 2008. When I was the chairman, Arizona was one of the first states in the United States to require their utilities to get a portion of their electricity from renewable energy. I actually wrote the current standard, the policy, in 2006 when I was a commissioner. Running with Sandra Kennedy as a team. As she indicated, we want to make Arizona the solar capital of the world. We want to stop the unjust rate increases by APS and the other utilities. And in fact, when I was a commissioner, I voted no on the last APS rate case. And when I was chairman in 2001, I voted to reduce rates for APS and Tucson Electric. So it's great to be here. Look forward to this forum and debate, and thank you for putting it on for us.
Next candidate, a Republican. We're going to go to the Republicans now. Jim O'Connor.
Good morning, one and all. My name is Jim O'Connor, and I'm a Republican candidate for the office of Corporation Commission. I want to give you 2 very important reasons why I'm worthy of consideration for your vote. Number 1, I'm the only Republican clean elections candidate. What that means for voters and ratepayers is that when I get to office, I don't owe anybody a favor. No dark money, no blue money, no money. I got our money, and I'm gonna do the people's business. Second, I'm one term and done. That's it. So I'm not going into office trying to raise money for my next election for another 4 years or another shot at something else. I'm not a political player. I've got no political experience, and I think just like others in office these days that are very popular with no political experience, it's time we got some real American citizens in there to use common sense to get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Next candidate would be Eric Sloan.
Good morning. My name is Eric Sloan, and I'm a candidate for the Arizona Corporation Commission. I'm running on a very simple platform. My platform is that we need to negotiate lower rates for the ratepayers. I think we've all seen increases in our rates that have been unjustifiable, and we need to lower those rates. Number two, I want to eliminate the telecom tax. The telecom tax is a tax that disproportionately hurts people on low incomes, fixed incomes, in our business community. We could unlock hundreds of millions of dollars if we got rid of that tax on landline phones. The third thing is that the Republican tax reform money that happened at the federal level took the federal tax rate from 35% down to 21%. Now, the utility companies want to keep that money, but I think that money should come back to the ratepayers. So I'm going to fight to make sure that happens. And the fourth thing in my platform is to initiate a statewide ethics commission that will oversee all forms of state government. It will be appointed by the governor, approved by the Senate, and geographically diverse. I look forward to talking to you a little bit more about that. Again, my name is Eric Sloan. Please select Sloan when you get your ballot. Thank you very much.
And our final candidate for his opening statement will be Justin Olson.
Well, thank you so much for having us out here this morning. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Justin Olson. Tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a native of Arizona. I served in the state legislature for 6 years. I was a conservative leader. It's recognized by many organizations as a champion of the taxpayer. I led efforts to cut your taxes and to balance our budget. Governor Ducey appointed me to the Corporation Commission in October of last year. So I arrived at the commission when there were significant challenges, and I've been part of the solution. Since arriving at the commission, I heard loudly and clearly from folks who were frustrated about rate increases, and I led the effort to reduce your rates. As a result of the efforts that I led at the commission, rates across the state are $188 million lower today than the day that I took office. In addition, I've also advocated for reforms at the commission to prohibit commissioners and candidates for the commission from accepting contributions from the entities that we regulate. Important reforms advocating for increased accountability, increased transparency, and most importantly, advocating for affordable rates while still maintaining safe and reliable services. My name is Justin Olson. I'd be honored to have your support.
Thank you, Justin. All right, this is your forum. This is your opportunity to ask questions of the candidates. And what's our first question?
First question comes from Tina Dugan.
Good morning for 15 more minutes. My name's Tina Dugan. I'm a farmer's wife, small business owner in the town of Maricopa. My question comes to you on what you can do better for our citizens. We've all watched the debacle that is Johnson Utilities. We have here in town Global Water. I think part of the problem that we have is the citizens not understanding the commission, and I really don't feel like the Corporation Commission cares about us. I'd like to know what you as a commissioner would do to make that better for us citizens.
Good question. We're going to go in reverse order. That's going to be basically, we're going to get your vision. And the first person will be Kiana Sears.
As a consumer advocate, what I've done in this 20 years is actually serve consumers. One, I did tell you that I worked at the Corporation Commission, so I'm all in, and the reason why I resigned is to do a better job for us, the ratepayers. As a hardworking mother, employee, what I look at every day is opportunity, and I want opportunity to avail for all families. August and September is when we have some of the highest rates. That's also when all students start school. So I intend to galvanize the Consumers Division of the Arizona Corporation Commission so we can put together a plan that continues to, one, reduce rates for all ratepayers, but look at the highest peak points and actually help all citizens, help all ratepayers of Arizona by reducing costs, especially during that time, because we need to go forward with education, and then be the leader in solar and renewables, which will bring high-paying jobs, because all HVAC start at $18.50 an hour, but also help with all health. It's time that we reduce asthma and all the health effects because we have this dirty air. So I'm all in for working for us. That's one and the main reason why I'm here, to help all Arizonans live a healthier life, reduce our rates, and actually prosper in Arizona. That's why a lot of people came here, and that's why I came here as a teenage mom with my daughter, and then raised and decided to stay because the opportunity was there. I seized it, and that's why I'm in this race to work for us. That's why I'm all in, putting my job on the line, my career on the line, and dedicating my life to service to you, the Arizona ratepayer.
I'd like to remind all the candidates, try to keep your comments, if you could, in the range of a minute. Be succinct. Don't repeat yourselves, please. Bill, next candidate.
Well, I think the question was about Johnson Utilities and global. We're all here to protect the consumer, and as I talked about reducing rates, but specifically on Johnson Utilities, if the staff, if the commission had listened to the staff, for 4 years the staff at the commission has been warning them about the problems with Johnson Utilities, and the commissioners ignored their own staff, and in fact actually praised Johnson Utilities. And we all know the former chair of the commission was indicted for bribery, for taking money from Johnson Utilities. And he has a federal court trial going on right now in the district court. Now, there was a hung jury, and it remains to be seen whether or not that trial goes forward again. But what I said was, and I was on Sunday Square Off after that indictment came out, I said, this is just the tip of the iceberg at the commission. We should all be concerned about the coziness between the commissioners and the utilities they regulate. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, or Green Party, you should be concerned. There is a culture of corruption there, and we need to end it, and we will when we get back there, when Sandra and I get back there. Thank you.
Next candidate, Jim O'Connor.
Thank you. In this case, I agree with our Democratic friend, Bill Mundell, entirely on Johnson Utilities. Again, I'm not a politico. I'm a citizen outsider. The commissioners were in possession of information about this fiasco that we've all read about for years now, way in advance. I need the commission, under my vote, will be charged to be proactive. We want to get the bad actors not only in the utility space, water company, power company, we want to get the bad actors in the investment industry. I have a 42-year background in investments. That was my livelihood. And in 42 years, not one letter of complaint to the SEC, the NASD, the regulatory bodies and state commissions. So it infuriates me when bad guys come in and steal money from the public in any way, shape, or form. Your Arizona Corporation Commission regulates every investment advisor and broker-dealer in the state of Arizona. And we, to date, have been absent with the strong hand that's needed to catch and crack down on financial crime. So Johnson Utilities, boom, we should have done that a long time ago. Thank you.
Eric Sloan.
Well, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. So my mother moved us here in 1993. She moved us to a cotton field in the middle of Chandler, Arizona. We had moved from Virginia, where we had spent half of my life on a cattle farm that my family had, and half of my life in the inner city. My youngest brother actually lives here in Maricopa. And, you know, my mother moved us to Arizona because there was opportunity for us, because she could get a job here. She could buy a house. She bought a beautiful 2,000 square foot house for $120,000, which was a lot of money for us then. But we went without a lot. And one of the reasons why we went without is because we had to make hard choices. Is there corruption on the commission? Absolutely, there's corruption on the commission. And there's no finer example of that corruption than what's happened with Johnson Utilities in Pinal County. I grew up in Chandler, Arizona. I've been hearing about Johnson Utilities for 10 years, 15 years. And this commission has done nothing about it. And then in the middle of an election year, magically, they show up to get something done. We should hold them accountable for that. We should hold them accountable in the primary, and we should hold them accountable in the general election. But one of the reasons why I'm here today, specifically in Maricopa, is because you said you're the wife of a farmer. And water is really important to you. And I've been traveling the state talking about water. And water was important to us too. It still is on that family farm in Virginia. And, you know, the Corporation Commission has got to do a better job when it comes to private water companies. We cannot let what happened with Johnson Utilities ever happen again. And we have to get rid of the people who helped create the problem and help perpetuate the problem. And that's the reason why I'm running. And I really appreciate that question. Thank you.
Justin Olson.
Thank you so much for that very important question. You know, when I arrived at the commission in October of last year, that was the first question that I asked. I began to dig into the questions about Johnson Utilities and all of the other utilities that the commission regulates, because it became evident to me that the oversight that was needed for these utilities had not occurred. And that was frustrating to me. I knew that I had arrived at the commission when there were significant challenges, and there were going to need to be significant reforms in order to address these challenges. And I went to work. I already mentioned to you what I did to reduce rates, to mitigate the impact of rate increases that had driven up the costs of utilities on hardworking Arizona families. In addition to that, I began to provide significant oversight, reached out to communities, went out to Santan Valley, heard from the residents, heard firsthand about what was going on. And you can look at my record of what I have done to provide that appropriate oversight for Johnson Utilities. And as a result of the oversight that I've provided, we've now voted for an interim manager to take over management of Johnson Utilities, to begin to correct the serious problems that we saw at Johnson Utilities. This was after a series of evidentiary hearings, 15 days of evidentiary hearings, over 200 exhibits, 27 different witnesses that provided testimony. And this was an important reform, but it's absolutely accurate that it never should have happened in the first place. We've got to have appropriate oversight at the commission, and I'm very honored to see that the number one critic of the commission, the Arizona Republic, has endorsed my campaign because they've seen that I have been part of that solution, providing appropriate oversight at the commission. Thank you so much for that important question.
Sandra? Sandra Kennedy.
Thank you so much. I don't know if that's a sign that I am glad to have your question. I was a sitting commissioner in 2010. When Johnson's Utilities came to the commission, they wanted a rate increase. We actually did not give them a rate increase. I worked with Commissioner Mays at the commission. We actually put teeth into the docket to make Johnson's Utilities accountable. When Chris Mays left the commission and Gary Pierce became the chair of the commission, everything that we had done, everything we had put into the docket to make Johnson's Utilities accountable was removed. Everything. I wrote a letter in opposition and said there have been no changes to what Johnson Utilities is doing. We should continue to make him accountable. They have bad service, bad water. We are not doing our job if we aren't making them accountable. I was the only commissioner that voted no. the only one, because I wanted to make him accountable. I wrote a letter to the docket and basically said, we have a company that is bad. We have a company that feels that they can do whatever they want to do when they get ready to. And if a consumer complains, then they go after that consumer. That is unfair and unjust. Now to Maricopa. I worked very hard during my tenure. Global Water is the water company down here. And I mean, I fought tooth and nail with Global Water. I came down here during their rate case hearing, and I listened to the people, and I heard every word you said. And everything you said to me, I put it in writing and made Global Water do everything that the community down here wanted. I am very excited about what I've done in the past, and for the things that they're not doing at the commission now. When I return to the commission, I'm going to be that hard-nosed person that I was when I was at the commission. That's why I'm asking you to return me to the commission and return Bill Mundell. Thank you.
Next question.
Thank you. My name is Bill Robertson. Heard a lot about Global Water, and thank you for the efforts you've made on Global Water. I don't want to hear about Johnson Utilities. You told us that you were warned about Johnson Utilities from your staff, and you had information about Johnson Utilities and did nothing about it. Tell me what you know about Global Water. What have you been told from your staff about Global Water now? And what do you understand about our problems with Global Water? Number two, we pay a 911 surcharge on our phone bills. That money is dedicated to go to PSAPs, Public Safety Answering Point, staffing and communication centers for 911. Our police chief recently told me that he can't have access to that money. It doesn't exist. It's been moved to other parts of state funding and other projects. So we're paying a surcharge, a 911 surcharge, if you look at your next phone bill, that does not go to its intended purposes. How can you follow up on that and make that go where it needs to be? Thank you.
Bill Mundell.
Well, maybe I wasn't very articulate. I haven't been on the commission for 10 years, so when I said the commissioners didn't listen to their staff over the last 4 years, that's the current sitting commissioners that didn't listen to their staff. And so it's too bad that the one commissioner that was on the commission at the time is not here, the Republican is not here to answer your question why they didn't listen to their staff for the last 4 years. The same thing that Sandra answered when I was a commissioner 10 years ago. We worked hard to make all the 300 private water and sewer companies, including Global, toe the line and be responsive to the people that they serve, just whether it's EPCOR, Johnson Utilities, et cetera. On the 911 issue, commissioners are like judges. We order utilities to do things they don't want to do. And that's the role. We order them to do. We don't say, could you please do this? There's orders, as was described earlier, where the commissioners listen to evidence, just like a judge, and the commissioners are supposed to avoid even the appearance of bias or prejudice, just like a judge, and then issue an order to solve the problem that you just mentioned.
Thank you. Jim?
I truly wish for your sake, for that great question, that you had the 4 elected commissioners who failed us as a group, not individually. There's a good apple in that barrel somewhere, but they need to answer those questions. None of us, even with Justin Olson up here, he's only been on the commission 9 months. The rest of us don't have staff. We've received no reports. And with respect to regulation of water companies, the regulation of the electric companies is easier because there are only a handful of them in the state. There are approximately 385 independently owned water companies that have monopoly powers. granted by our state. And the 5 judges who Bill referred to, we serve in a judicial capacity with primary responsibility for adjudicating, that is, judging over what is a just and reasonable rate. And our state constitution mandates that each of us act in that capacity. And I think you're right. I think the current commission, with the exception of Mr. Olson, the current commission has failed us. So we, the voters, need to wake up and make changes. And this isn't, in my view, this is not, in this particular office, we citizens of Arizona are electing people, hopefully, that you believe and you trust are wise, experienced. This is a business position. This is not a red team, blue team sport. You can do that in all the other jobs. There's no Republican solution. There is no Democrat solution or independent, green, or libertarian. This is a business position. One needs a trusted individual with experience exercising common sense, not a 303-page code of conduct that took a year to write, has holes in it as big as a piece of Swiss cheese that the commission adopted earlier this year. I believe it was March. I just read the executive summary of 38 pages. I wasn't about to droll through 303 pages that there are over 400 employees at the Corporation Commission. Do you know how many people that code of conduct touches? The 5 elected commissioners. We, the voters of Arizona, have to do a better job. We need people with common sense. I know when I'm doing something right, and I know when I'm doing something wrong. I don't need a 300-page brochure on ethics to get me there, nor another person who's advocating for a thing called the Judicial Code of Conduct, as if that was going to be a cure-all. You're all old enough to have been in a courtroom at one point in your life. Do you think every judge in the state of Arizona that signs on to the Judicial Code of Conduct is worthy of the office he or she holds? That usually gets a big laugh. Maybe you guys have been out of court for a long time. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for the question. I wish I could give you, but yeah, thank you.
Eric Sloan.
Yeah, and to Jim's point, I'm not on the commission. I'm running as a first-time candidate for the commission. But to the point that you made, this has been going on a long time, and it's atrocious that only now is it being dealt with. And I think we need to hold people accountable for that. And I think we need to hold people accountable for that. You can't be part of the solution if you created the problem and then help perpetuate the problem. We shouldn't just keep electing the same people who are part of the problem. And when we're talking about what's gone on at the commission and the corruption at the commission, I do think we need an independent body who can go in and investigate the commission and go in and investigate other state agencies, including other elected officials, and the legislature, who's an independent body that will remove all the politics out of these investigations. And all these people who get to make the rules, break the rules, investigate themselves, and then pass judgment on themselves. I mean, I have a 6-year-old daughter. She'd eat candy all day long if I let her. Well, this is the same thing. We're letting these people just run amok, and we've got to put an end to it. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm running. I appreciate your question. Thank you.
Justin Olson.
Yes, thank you very much for that important question. I agree completely that the oversight that we provide at the Commission is oversight that's needed for each one of our privately held utilities, not just Johnson Utilities, not just APS, but certainly Global Water and all of the other utilities that operate all throughout our state. And that's what I've done since arriving at the Commission. I appreciate my fellow candidates for the Commission pointing out that while there have been problems at the Commission, that those are problems that existed far before the time that I arrived at the Commission. And it's worth repeating again that even the Arizona Republic that consistently criticizes the Commission has endorsed my campaign because they recognize that after getting to the Commission, I've been working on important reforms. I've been providing appropriate oversight, and that oversight includes oversight of Global Water, as well as all of the other utilities across the great state of Arizona. immediately upon arriving at the commission, I put my experience to work. I've got an MBA in finance, and I work in the private sector as a tax manager. And I recognize that there are opportunities to pass savings, rate savings, onto the ratepayers by analyzing these rate cases and finding areas where the utilities ought to be passing more savings onto the ratepayers. I already mentioned that the results of those efforts have already led to $188 million in reductions in rates across the state of Arizona, and more reductions are yet to come. So that's the approach that I've taken to each of the rate cases that have come before me. The global water rate case was decided before I got to the commission, but as it comes before me, as other policies come before me, such as the question about the tax expense, I've provided that appropriate oversight, and I've demanded that these utilities pass the tax savings on to ratepayers, and that's led to significant savings. And I'll continue those efforts to represent you, the ratepayers, before the the Corporation Commission. Thank you so much.
Sandra Kennedy.
Thank you for your question. I'm sorry I didn't hear your name. Bill.
Sandra, could I just,
Can you hear me?
if you would, talk right into the...
Is that better?
Right into the microphone.
Okay. Bill, thank you for your question on the 911. I don't know what changes have been made to the 911 since I've left the commission, but I'm a doer and I believe in action. So one of my charges when I am elected and returned to the commission, I will look into that and make sure that I am accountable to you and make sure that the questions that you have asked today are answered. That is my promise to you. Global Water. Global Water is not a homegrown company. Global Water came from another state. I was never a friend of Global Water because they came in thinking that they could do business like they were doing in a previous state. And I said, this is Arizona. I'm not accountable to you. I am accountable to the ratepayers, the consumers. So we're going to hear from the consumers, and we're going to move in the direction of the consumers, and we're going to run business in Arizona the way the consumers see fit. That's what you're going to get from Sandra Kennedy and Bill Mundell.
Kiana Sears, please.
As a former water and wastewater professional, my charge, my duty as a staffer was to actually look at the rate cases, look at the water issues that were coming before the Corporation Commission, and that's part of what brings me here today. Seeing time and time again that, Bill, the things that concern us as citizens, the ratepayer was not being addressed. It was being ignored. So what I'm standing before you, attempting to do with your nomination, is to make history, having a former employee who saw the lack of integrity, that saw the actual ratepayer being taken advantage, working on everything we need to do to actually make sure the ratepayers are protected, that we have the lowest rate possible, we have abundance of water, we have great water pressure, and that our children are protected in school, lead-free water in school, which we do have schools that have lead in their systems. So for me, water is critical. The other thing about water is I'm the main candidate and only candidate that's talking about all of the alfalfa that's being grown and exported to China and the Middle East. That's a problem when water is one of our most precious resources here in Arizona. So I am for protecting us, Arizonans, and doing everything that we can to make sure we are able to go forward efficiently. So again, my commitment to you is to not talk about it, but actually come and do what women do, which is clean messes up. That's why I stepped with that. That's why I'm running. So I'm asking you for your vote. I haven't been running for 25 years or 30 years or have a combined history of 55 years, but I bring that fresh look to you as a leader and someone who is a water professional, who has gone forward to get the degrees and what it takes to actually be a public servant to serve you in this capacity. Thank you.
Do you have another candidate, another question?
No one's
step forward. I do have a question for Mr. Sloan, since he's on the commission, and I'm curious about
Mr. Olson's on the
Mr. Sloan,
commission.
I'm looking right at you. Mr. Olson, and also I'd like to...
We have the same letters in our name.
Yeah, exactly. Hear from Ms. Sears, since she's seen the back side of the commission as well. How do commissioners hold each other accountable, and especially to be sure that no one is being unduly influenced by a utility?
You know, that's a great question. Well, there's a couple things. First of all, the commission is very siloed, and this is by design because of our open meeting requirements in the Constitution. And so because it's a 5-member body, if you have more than 2 members of the commission interacting with each other, even asynchronously. So if a commissioner meets with one commissioner, speaks about a particular topic, they can't meet with a third commissioner and speak about that same topic, or that's a violation of the open meeting restrictions in the Constitution. And so as a result, the commission ends up being very siloed, where I work in my office and I focus on what I'm doing in my office, the policies that we're putting in place, and then we get together in the open meeting and we discuss all of the issues at the time when the public can come and give their input on these important issues. And so there's not a lot of behind-the-scenes interactions that take place at the Corporation Commission. It all takes place in the open meetings, which is the way that it's been designed to occur. And so what can the commissioners do to hold other commissioners accountable? Well, you can do what I've done at the commission, and that is to advocate for prohibitions against commissioners accepting campaign contributions that are given to the commissioner by the entities that we regulate. That's what I offered as an amendment to the Commissioner's Code of Ethics. Unfortunately, that amendment didn't pass. I also offered an amendment that said commissioners should not be able to accept any food or travel benefits that are funded by the entities that the commission regulates. Unfortunately, that amendment didn't pass either, but these are the efforts that I've been pursuing at the Corporation Commission. We've got to increase the accountability and the transparency and ensure that the utilities do not have undue influence over the commission. That's what I'll continue to do for you with another full term. Thank you so much.
Clean elections, clean air, clean water are the things that I stand for, I bring to you, and are the things that the Corporation Commission and our commissioners are not addressing. What's happening right now is just kind of a revolving door when it comes to energy companies increasing our bills. That's one of the reasons why I'm stepping up. And when you talk about the ability to do the right thing is to do your job. And the job of the Corporation Commissioners is to protect us, the ratepayers. Hardworking Arizonans that work in 115 degrees to doing all these things that we do to protect our children, our future. One of the main things that's not happening is integrity. So honesty, transparency, integrity in the job, doing what's charged to do is not what's happening. Commissioners go in their office and talk to their staff, and unfortunately have been having meetings with special interests. That's one of the reasons why I decided to run as a clean elections candidate when this is the year of the woman. I know there's wonderful men out supporting us women, but there's a lot of money out there. But my dedication to you is to run not encumbered by any special interest, because the only reason why I'm in this race is for us, the Arizonans. I appreciate everything that have been afforded, and I believe to whom much is given, much is required. That's why I'm making this sacrifice to actually resign from my job and to run, because I know I will be committed to do a better job and to serve you, the Arizona ratepayers.
We have an online question back there.
This is a question from InMaricopa's Facebook Live. Elizabeth Cooney asked, which candidate supports more affordable and easily accessible solar power?
We needed somebody to give us the question again.
Elizabeth Cooney asked, which candidate supports more affordable and easily accessible solar power?
Was there a single candidate, or did you want to question all of the candidates?
There was not a single candidate.
She was asking.
It was an open
question.
question.
Support that.
Sure. You want us all to answer?
It's what?
Whoever wants to. You don't have to.
So I think that what Arizona needs more than anything, there's two things. I have said that I am a no vote on subsidies and I am a no vote on mandates. What we don't need to do is put regulations in place that are going to prevent us from taking advantage of the revolution in technology that's happening in the energy sector. There are other states who have locked themselves into a particular type of energy. There are some states on the East Coast who have locked themselves in the coal, which is now the most expensive type of energy. In Arizona, what we need to do is we need to have a full portfolio of energy that includes nuclear. Because if you want to take carbon emissions out of the air, nuclear power does that. If you want to have huge solar fields, like the one that they just built in Marana, solar produces energy like this. And what you have to do is you have to have something in a base load that will give you an even distribution of energy when it comes to that. But more importantly to that question are batteries. Battery technology is improving on itself 16% year over year. I have a Honda Hybrid Accord. The technology in that car was invented in F1 racing. When I brake the car, it charges the battery. I get 600 miles to a tank of gas in that car. That is the tip of the spear. Because when we're talking about battery technology being put into homes, we're talking about people being able to utilize that technology when it comes to solar or wind generation or nuclear generation or whatever it is, to their best benefit. And so this is the reason why I think it's very important that we do not put new regulations in place that are going to prevent people from taking advantage of those technologies and put them in a bad situation in future economies. Thank you.
Justin?
Thank you for that very important question. This question about renewables is very, very important, and it's certainly something that comes up regularly at the Commission. In my view on renewables is that Arizona will continue to be a major producer of renewable energy. Solar energy will continue to play a very important role in the portfolio here in Arizona. And that's because solar has been a success story. The cost of producing electricity through solar generation has plummeted. So much so that energy generated through solar is the least cost approach of generating electricity while the sun is shining. And so the question is, what are we going to do for energy when the sun's not shining? That we've still got to have the energy to meet that demand. When folks get home from work, they turn on their air conditioning, or the cloud has covered the solar panels, or the sun has faded into the horizon. So the question is, who supports low-cost solar energy? I support low-cost energy across the board. And that's what I'm going to continue to advocate for at the Commission. And we do that by investing in the lowest cost energy generation in every aspect of the technologies that are available to us. That's what I'll continue to advocate for. I'll continue to oppose mandates that will drive up the cost of electricity. And I'll continue to support those mandates that drive it down, that require the utilities to do things that are in the ratepayers' best interest. Now, we can look to a couple different examples. We can look are we out of time? Okay.
We're out of time.
Thank you so much. But that's my
we need
approach.
To move forward.
Low-cost energy across the board.
If there's somebody else that needs to respond a bit,
without being redundant,
okay,
I'll be very brief.
I'm going to limit your responses to 30 seconds here, because then we're going to have to go into closing because
I was only going to use 15 seconds. I'm very excited about the future of solar, and I'm very excited that our citizens want clean energy. But there's a correct way, a prudent way to go about getting that. Thank you.
Well, as I indicated in my opening remarks, we should be the solar capital of the world. And as I said in 2006, when I was a commissioner, I co-authored the current standard of 15% by the year 2000 for renewables and other solar and other renewables. That needs to be greatly increased. And I disagree with some of the other statements. In Colorado right now, when they went out to do an request, an RFP, wind came back lower than coal in the biggest utility in the state, which is Xcel. Now back to the other question about the code of ethics. They passed a code of ethics that isn't worth the paper that is written on. You could drive a Mack truck through, or I should say a rate increase through it, because it has so many loopholes. It doesn't ban commissioners from getting free food and drinks and being taken to an expensive restaurant, because it says it only applies if a matter is pending. So a commissioner could be taken to an expensive restaurant by the utility on Thursday night, which they do, and then on Friday, the utility could file their rate case, and that would be totally appropriate under the code of ethics that was adopted, because the matter wasn't quote-unquote pending. It's a joke.
Bill, could you please wrap it up, please?
I totally believe in affordable solar and affordable renewables. Going forward with renewables and all green energy is Arizona's future. One, it gives high-paying jobs, $18.50, like I said, starting with HVAC training that will get our kids out of debt. It will also reduce the asthma rate. It will bring clean air. So we are paused to go forward in the future. Yes, we should be the solar capital of the world. Arizona is now time for us to pressure me, your next Arizona Corporation Commissioner, to get together and get this happening here in Arizona. Renewables is the future, and that's what I will fight for every single day for you, the Arizona ratepayer.
Sandra, would you like to comment?
I'll be brief. I will just say that I am in support of the Clean and Healthy initiative here for Arizona, and I am excited. I want to get to the commission so that I can help implement it. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidates, we're going to do our closing segment now, 90-second closing statements, and we're going to go in reverse order. Justin, you're first.
Well, thank you so much for having us here today. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, I'm new to the commission. I arrived at the commission at a time of significant challenges, and I've been part of the solutions. I've offered amendments to the Code of Ethics. As was described, those amendments weren't accepted. But those were amendments that said that commissioners cannot accept campaign contributions from the entities that we regulate. Commissioners cannot accept food and travel benefits funded by the entities that we regulate. These are policies that I've already adopted for my campaign and for my office. In addition to advocating for increased accountability and transparency, I've been lowering your rates. No one else on this stage has had that record of lowering your rates. Rates are lower today than they were the day that I took office. And that's because of the efforts that I've been leading and advocating on your behalf, on behalf of the ratepayers. That's why I earned the endorsement of the Arizona Republic. That's why I've been supported by leaders across our state like Jeff DeWitt and conservative leaders in Congress like David Schweikert, Andy Biggs, and Debbie Lesko, as well as your local representatives here like Vince Leach, Steve Smith, and Mark Fincham, and others across the great state of Arizona. I've been fighting for you. I will continue to fight for you. My name is Justin Olson, and I would be honored to have your support. Thank you so much.
Eric?
Well, thank you for having us. My name's Eric Sloan. Again, I'm a candidate for the Arizona Corporation Commission. Candidly, I'm running because I've been vastly disappointed in the commission and what the commission has done over the last 4 years. But I think I share that sentiment with a lot of people in the audience. We're disappointed in what they've done on ethics reform. We're disappointed with what they've done on Johnson Utilities. We're disappointed with what they did with the APS rate case, which I've called to be reopened. We're disappointed with rate consolidation across the state, which has tripled and quadrupled rates in some communities. Some of those communities are on fixed incomes, like Sun City in Mojave County. This is the reason why I'm asking for your vote, because there are 3 things that I want to do. I want to make sure that the deal that we make with the utility companies is a deal that we keep, that we negotiate the lowest rate possible on the guaranteed rate of return that they get based on our Constitution. I'm a small business owner. I do economic development work. This is what I do for a living, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to run. Number 2, we should eliminate the telecom tax. Disproportionately hurts people on fixed incomes, low incomes, in our business community. If we got rid of it, it'd unlock hundreds of millions of dollars into Arizona's economy. So, the other thing that I'm talking about here is that, I really just want to do what's best for all of us. And again, my name's Eric Sloan. I ask you to select Sloan on your ballot, and I thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Jim, you're on.
Thank you. I'm still Jim O'Connor, and I'm still in this contest running for office and asking for your vote. So why you, O'Connor? What's the big deal? What have you done? We don't know you. Okay. I lived 30 years in Los Angeles and retired here to Arizona after selling an investment advisory practice that I owned with a partner for a number of years. That business I managed with my partner, $1.4 billion of public fund money for 112 governments, from school districts up to airports, county governments, and state agencies throughout California and Nevada. When Orange County, California went bankrupt 25 years ago, and I know none of you in the room were alive then, but back in those ancient of days, their county treasurer lost $2 billion of public fund money that he was managing. I was called in by the then California State Senate to serve them pro bono. For those of you who missed the Latin class, that's for free, for 18 months. And I rewrote, with the help of others, investment statutes in that state. And for the last 24 and a half years, there was never another bankruptcy because of that. I enjoy the endorsement of a couple of people that I've worked long with for a long time. J.D. Hayworth, Jeff DeWitt, our county treasurer. Oh, sit down. All right, thanks. The list goes on, but you have to go to my website, o'connoraz.com. Thank you.
Bill.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been great to be here. You know, I didn't get a chance to say I started my public service career fighting corruption in Chandler as a young lawyer. And as a result of that, I was appointed the presiding judge at age 27 because we fought corruption and stopped it in the city of Chandler. And then I was appointed to the commission. And as I've said a number of times, we want to make Arizona the solar capital of the world. You know, Sandra and I were also endorsed by the Republic. Justin's mentioned his endorsement a number of times. We were endorsed by the Arizona Republic also, and we appreciate that endorsement. But what we think is more important is you, the voter, and the consumers. We're all talking about protecting consumer. Actually have a record up here on the stage. As I indicated, I voted no on the last APS rate case in 2007 when I was there. I voted to reduce rates on APS and Tucson Electric when I was a commission. And actually back in November, Sandra and I called for a rehearing of the unjustified rate increase that the commissioners gave to APS. Even though their own staff said they were over-earning, they ignored their staff and voted for the unjustified rate increase anyway. We've called for a hearing. There's a matter pending. The commissioners have just sat on their hands and haven't helped that process one iota. So we would be honored. We'd be honored to have your vote in the primary and be the nominees of the Democratic Party to go on to win in November. Thank you very much.
My name's Kiana Sears, and I would also appreciate that you elect me, this hardworking woman who's not running as a team, but running to serve you. The reason why I'm running is to protect the ratepayers. This is not about political gains for me. This is not about going back and doing a lot of the shenanigans that we saw over the 10 years here with the Arizona Corporation Commission. As an energy professional, I want to work for your families. I want to make sure the hard-earned money that we get here in Arizona, we can actually use to live a healthy, productive life. So clean water, clean politics, clean air is what I will bring to you with honesty, transparency, and most of all, diligent service. Hard work is what I do. It's what I've done at the Corporation Commission behind the scenes, and now put my money where my mouth is to serve you, to take this entire year to go from the rural counties to the metropolitan areas to let you know I will do what I always do, go out and talk to the public and be civically engaged. As governing board member of 68,000 children, I invest time and time again with no pay because a future that thrives matters to me. So again, Kiana Sears, it's sears4arizona.com is my website. I need your help and the vote of everyone who's under the sound of my voice to get through this primary. Thank you so much.
First, let me thank the in-town of Maricopa Town Hall Committee for putting this event together today, because if it were not for them, we would not be here to talk to you. So again, thank you. Again, my name is Sandra Kennedy. If you want high rates, I'm not your candidate. If you want somebody who is going to look out for you and your pocketbook, I am ready to roll up my sleeves to get the work done. I know where the dead bodies are. I'm ready to get back to the commission and to get to work. One of the things that is very important to me is the consumers of this area and throughout Arizona. We have gone from northern Arizona to southern Arizona, eastern Arizona to western Arizona. But every place I go is home because it is Arizona. So I thank you. I know your hardships with global water. I am ready, again, as I said, to roll up my sleeves and start work. And I have dubbed the commission the Corruption Commission. We're going to change it back to the Corporation Commission. Sandra Kennedy and Bill Mundell, thank you so much.